Brakatiki Hawa, Brakatiki Hawa Sai, Bahasuro Kahakodas. I want to give double honors to our elder apostles and elder bishops of Great Millstone who rule well, as well as peace and blessings, health and wellness. I'm Zahar, spirit wind lawyer, and today I want to go into a topic going into health and wellness. You know, so like I want to go into a topic going into health and wellness. Just thinking about certain things and going through. You know, also understanding how America, America, if you just go off the environment, if you go off the normalcy that's in America, and you are an Israelite, you're most likely going to be unhealthy. Now, nobody is just to the just, you know, this is a polluted environment, so it's hard to thrive in a polluted environment. And the scripture speaking in Sirach 30th chapter, how a strong body is better than gold, silver, is better than wealth. All right. So we have to do what we have to do to have a relatively healthy body, man. Okay. Shalom, shalom, Yahweh, Bahashim, Havashai, Bahasur, Hakodash, Barakatham, to you brothers and sisters who are tuning in to this live stream. All right. But long story short, we have to take heed in taking care of our body. And a lot of times, Jake, especially men, Israelite men, so-called black men, doesn't like going to the doctor. And, you know, I believe there's some post-traumatic stress associated with that, because oftentimes we're the experiment, or we were the experiment when it comes to the doctors. A lot of times, if you're low income, if you don't have insurance, and you go through these free programs, yeah, those free programs come with some nurse student experimenting on you, some fucking intern experimenting on you, all right? Jake, that so-called black babies, all right, have a high mortality rate under Edomite doctors. All right, just facts. You know, you can say what you want to say, but we didn't do it, y'all did it. We have a high mortality rate when it comes to being a newborn, all right, being under Edomite supervision, Edomite doctor supervision. There's a high mortality rate. But one thing that I've learned is that when it comes to getting yourself checked out, all right, you know, you might want to go to a so-called black nurse practitioner, man. A Jake doctor, a Jake nurse practitioner, maybe a Nigerian doctor. You know, I don't think Elam is that bad either, you know, but you might get you somebody like a nurse practitioner who will deal with you more on a personal level. You know, in this kingdom, you know, if you can, it doesn't hurt to have insurance. It's a scam. Health insurance is a scam. But I'm saying all these things because, you know, Jake is holistic. You know, Jake wanna, you know, Jake, you know, you believe in Yahweh, Bahashim, Havashai, and you wanna deal with your problems on a natural level, or Jake don't want to deal with the reality of what he might have or find out he might have once he go and get that blood work done. But what I've learned in this journey, and it's truth, man, you get the blood work to see where you are. Find out in the early stage. The irony is, Jake don't want to go to the doctor and find out what he might have, right? Well, he might be skeptical of a so-called doctor, right? But if whatever he would have had, that he was afraid that he would have had it, all right, he was afraid of that reality, all right. If he would have took care of it in the beginning, hey, the Most High, you know, could have relieved it from him, or at least mitigated the effects. You see, but that's just how the flesh work and them demons work, man. I speak as a man, but you don't want to face the reality of something. But if you face it in the early stages, it could be reversed. You know, CURED, or whatever, man. Hey, Jake, man, yep. Jake got to check that prostate. Jake got to check, yeah, get that blood work done to see where you at. You know, Jay got to get that cardio, get to keep that heart beating fast. But it's good to go get checked out, man. You know, it's not healthy to just self-diagnose off what you think you might have. And then you'll go on Google. You might go on Google for your symptoms, but Google can mislead you, man. So when you get the blood work, you know, we're not in our homeland Jerusalem no more. You know, we're in Egypt. When you get that blood work, you can see exactly where you at, and then you can take that holistic approach. But it's good to see exactly what you may or may not have, man. You know, it's good to see exactly what you may or may not have. All right, the scripture says, "Be not righteous over much," man. You know, and where this grid go out, there's some type of cyber attack. How many people are hospital dependent, man? You know, how many people are dependent? They bound to some diagnosis machine. You know, they bound to certain medications and stuff. They bound to constantly have to go to the doctor 3 times a week for this particular ailment. That's really resulted in probably 90% of the time, it's resulted of a poor diet. Decades of having a poor diet. Decades of putting the wrong fuel earth suit into your earthen vehicle, man. Decades putting the wrong fuel into your body. Now you're hospital bound. You're subject to the, you know, being under the care of a doctor, so to speak, right? But Jake, you know, get his workout routine, you know, his cardio, his resistance training. Jake break that sweat as much as he can. Jake get rid of that processed food, you know. Minimize that processed food, man. It's not worth dying for, man. Jake can have a heart attack and turn around and go back to the food that gave him the heart attack, man. You know? But nah, get the blood work to see where you at, man. You can spend months and months and months and even years misdiagnosing yourself. Give yourself herbs for something that for the wrong diagnosis. You buying the wrong herbs because you misdiagnose yourself. You see? You know, I know Jake that works in transportation, and basically their supervisors made them stop driving trucks because the blood pressure was too high. You know? You know, so you have weird things wrong with your body, and it's really a life lesson, because I went through this. At my age, I went through this. Just giving myself herbs for something that I think I have, and I'm going on Google, and the answer that Google gives me, it sounds about right. But it wasn't until I went to a nurse practitioner. I didn't just go to an Edomite or just this random doctor. I went to a nurse practitioner, man, a Jake nurse practitioner. You know, certain things you don't want to deal with your people with, and some things you do want to deal with your people with. You know, because they'll talk to you more on a personal level. They don't look at you as just this foreign species that walked into their office, man. That they'll give them some pills and pat you on the back, give you a lollipop and walk you out the office. Like, nah, they'll deal with you more, you know, generally, you know, on a more personal level, man. You know? You have Edomites that are professional and they're damn good at what they do, or they might be real good with people, but you know, when it comes to your health, and I just speak for sure, you know, definitely as a man, sometimes you get the Jake nurse practitioner or whatever, it feels more personal. You know, they're talking to a person. They feel like they're talking to a human, you know? Or it's like they're talking to you as a human. But long story short, you know, you get the blood work done, they tell you exactly what you got going on. Then Jake go to the herbal store. Jake get the herbal supplements, you know, and deal with it based off them blood results, man. You know? And, you know, a lot of ailments that you once had, you no longer have it. And it just, it's good to nip it in the bud in the beginning, man. So the moral of the story from my situation, now take care of it in the beginning. Don't play the guessing game. You know, if you think it's something mild, you might just, you know, go to the herbal store, take some digestive herbs or whatever. But if that's not happening, now you want to go and take care of it, man, so you can find out exactly what it is and go as make your moves based off that, you know. I definitely come from, you know, a family that, and historically, Jake don't listen to the doctor. You know, the doctor tell you stop eating this, stop eating that, and you still do it. You know, you mentor, you know, you mentor by people. And make sure you stay out the streets. Jake, you know, got a good heart. Jake talk to you and say, look, make sure you stay out the streets and make sure you know, I don't, you know, don't fall for the bullshit. But at the same time, Jake, you gotta manage your health too. You might not be this nigga in the streets. You know, you might be a Jake that go to work and go home. But if every day you get off work, you buying some bullshit or you frying some bullshit, like that's not good either. Because Jake go to prison, right? Jake might be in his 20s, his 30s. He get caught up in some stuff in the streets. You go to prison, now your family gotta survive without you. All right, but if you hospital bound from a poor diet, it's the same thing. Your family, now all the money is going to your health. Now, you know, if you go back to the spirit world prematurely, now the family that you left behind has to survive without you. You know? Hospital bound, everybody's schedule is based off helping you out, or you might deal with neglect from your family, but at the end of the day, you know, it ain't just not being a 2/3, it ain't just not being a nigga. And, you know, yeah, you might be a upright citizen, you might, you know, go to work, go home, stay out the way, but if you ruining yourself, man, all right, that's still not better, you know. You have Israelite women who they might do most of the cooking, right? Whether they're in the truth or they're not in the truth. And they cook garbage. Like, they cook garbage. They don't care. They cook what they want to cook, man. A woman is a nourisher. You motherfucking nourish. You're the umbilical cord to your child. All right? You're supposed to nourish your husband. But if the woman doesn't care about that, she just eats what she want to eat, man. That's a bad negative ripple effect on the family too, man. You know, you see Jake at Walmart, the whole family is obese, man. You know? And I'm not just talking just to be talking, man. I have those genes that respond to the standard American diet poorly. You know? So it takes action, a plan of action, to resist this man's kingdom on a dietary level, man. You know, I hope this is a edifying lesson. You know, we just taking care of the man behind the camera. You know, we do our thing on the weekend through the spirit of Yahweh Basham Shai. We teach. We got the maintenance ourselves, all right, in between camp, man. Just imagine in 2008, 2010, you had the mindset, and I get a new body in the kingdom. I eat what I want to eat. I get a new body in the kingdom. Because you thinking the kingdom is going to come 6 months from now. You know, you got cavities and shit, tooth infection, but I get new teeth in the kingdom. 8 more years go by, 15 more years go by. Just imagine how you would have been if you would have never elevated from that mindset, man. Like I said, Babylon has its temptations, man. All right, and I definitely get it. But we have to resist this man's kingdom, man. All right, because there's a lot of times we undervalue ourselves as men. I worked on jobs where you hear about somebody at the plant having a heart attack on the line, man. Like, damn. You don't need, we already have a stressful life as it is as the Israelites in America. So you don't want to be unhealthy with that stress, man. You're just going to go down. You know? You're going to have stress either way it goes, but you might as well be as healthy as possible. All right? Because you're the breadwinner, man. You're the patriarch. All right? So everybody is really dependent on you, spiritually, physically, whatever, financially. All right? We're not doing the whole Jake turned 30 and started dropping the ball. We're not doing it over here, man. And we have our apostles to learn from. They're in their 50s, I think early 60s, all right? And they're fit, you know? But I mean, that's pretty much the point, man. You know, get that blood work to see where you at, and then build your system, your routine based off the results of the blood work, man. All right, because usually when it comes to pain, that's the pain and the severe, you know, the chronic pain is a result of neglect from the earlier stages, man. So let's tackle it in the earlier stages, okay? And let's face the reality. It give us. Pray to Yahweh Basham Shai that he give us a spirit to deal with it, man. All right? But the scripture tell you that medicines come from the ground, man. But first you have to make sure you do a proper diagnosis, man. All right, but with that, hope you were edified. Once again, I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh Basham Shai, Bahasham Kahakudash. I also want to give double honors to our elder apostles, elder bishops of Great Millstone and Well, as well as peace and blessings, health and wellness to the house of David the elect, Abba Baal, Kum Yasha'Allah, Shalom. Shalom, Shalom, Zaquan.